What documents do you need in order to purchase property in Portugal?
So, regarding yourself, as a buyer, you need obviously your ID. You need a NIF number. What is a NIF number? NIF number is what we call our tax fiscal number in Portugal. So, your fiscal number in Portugal will be all the same once you have it. You can request one and have on the same day in the financiers branch, anywhere in your area. That's the main things you need to. Also, however, you need to be careful. You need to take into account that you need certain documents from the actual property to be legal. Like what we call the land register. In Portugal, we call it certidão permanente do registro predial. That is basically the ID of the property. Okay. You also have another document that we call a caderneta predial, which is anything to do with the tax department of your property. That's the document you need to have. Those are the two main documents, but then you need to make sure the property is legal. So always recommend asking for the full plans of the property, stamped by the council, okay? As well as nowadays we used to have what we call habitation license. That doesn't exist anymore on new properties because the government decided to simplify the system in Portugal, so that's not applicable anymore. However, they need to provide you with all the paperwork from the council to say yes, has it been approved and everything is in place. So that's really important to take in consideration those. We also use, it's mandatory to have, when anyone selling a property, to have what we call an energy certificate. It basically states the rating or the efficiency rating of your property.
So in pre-construction, you would receive those documents from your developer along with the energy details.
Yeah.
And I guess that would be a beneficial thing because you would know all of the documents were correct, you would know that they're all included, and you would be able to see the benefits of also energy efficiency in pre-construction versus pre-sale.
Absolutely. So generally, newer properties in Portugal is always come up at the certification of A above, A plus, A triple plus. There's a lot of properties nowadays, A double plus and A triple plus, which is the best efficiency you can have. On the older properties, you get properties with energy rating of D, E, F, C. The most common, most of the used properties probably are in between C and E. The older the used property, so it's very important to take that in consideration because then you're going to have problems with humidity, mold. It's going to be cold in the winter, warm in the summer. So it's very important that when you come to Portugal, really make sure you do the right decision for yourself. Because if you think that you're going to buy a used property and you're going to live comfortable in it, even sometimes you do a renovation, but if you don't know the issues of the house, your renovation is not going to last very long because after a rainy winter or something, then you're going to start having mold walls, you're going to start having infiltration problems, and that is a problem.
So along with pre-construction then, if you're having a property that's listed at A plus, A plus plus, or A triple plus, does that save you overall in your costs?
Absolutely, it saves you. Typically A triple plus, you will have all sorts of things like solar panels, photovoltaics, to warm the water, double glazed windows, insulation, very good insulation, typically like 7 centimeters insulation on the outside plus insulation on the inside. So that's very important for you to have your comfort that you probably won't get on the used property.
When you're building with pre-construction, do you have the ability to have upgrades in your internal amenities?
Yes, most of the developers will allow you to do upgrades, so they will have a standard table of finishes that they're going to add onto the house. If your change is within that price range that they already got programmed for the property, then there's not really a change. So you just need to make sure you do those changes before they already make those decisions. Typically, the earliest you move to a property, move on the purchase of a property, the easier it is to make changes. But if you want a higher end materials, then what they do is they say, okay, we got this budget, you have to pay for the difference, and then they are happy to add those materials.
With building with pre-construction, what's the average time frame it takes to go from start to finish?
So if you're doing a construction from the start of the construction till the end, let's say now they have an approved project and they start in the construction now, on average that takes about 2 years. Okay, it takes about 2 years to get fully ready. Sometimes builders might say is 18 months, but you have always to allow for difference, because typically there's always delays, especially when it comes to the paperwork at the end. The builder is not responsible anymore. Once they finish the works, what they do is they submit all the paperwork to the council, and then they need to wait for the council to issue all the approved documents. So
are you allowed to see and view the property as it's in construction phase?
Yes. Some places what they do have is a showroom house where you can actually see the house fully finished. Most places will allow you to actually see the property, that whatever stage the property is at, so you can actually see from the start to the end.
What is the difference between a primary residence and a secondary residence?
So a primary residency and the secondary residency. So you're going to pay different taxes on when you purchase the property, and so secondary residency is always on a higher tax. But after a certain amount, the tax becomes basically almost the same. But also, the primary residence, secondary residence, you need to take into account that your primary residency can only be one. Okay, you cannot have a primary residency here and a primary residence in UK. Either have it in UK or either have it in Portugal. Okay, so it's something that you should take into account.
How does that affect people looking to have an income property? If they're purchasing a property and they want to have a tenant and have a renter to use it as an income property?
You cannot have a primary residence for an income property. Always must be a secondary residence, and so there's depends what kind of scheme you want to do. If you want to do long-term rental or short-term rental, you need to take into account different taxes. There's a lot of benefits now that was given by the government for long-term rentals, just to try to prevent, to help with the house marketing in Portugal, basically the house issue that we have. Up to 2,300 euros a month rental, you have benefits. For example, instead of paying 28% on your income, you pay 10%. So that's a significant difference, a significant saving. That doesn't apply for short-term let. But however, short-term let can be also very profitable.
What do they call the short-term rental here in Portugal?
We call it alojamento local, more known by AL. It is alojamento local. So it's typically for you to have one of those, you need to request for a license. We don't have any restrictions anymore regarding apartments, houses. You can have AL license on any property, any livable property, residential property in Portugal. So it's important that you know that you need to submit an application online, and then your lawyer or anyone can help you with that. You submit an application, and then they have 60 days to issue the license to you.